Hi, I hope you're having a great day. Throughout my over 2 months hiatus, this channel received a lot of comments from you, and I mean a lot. The fact that some of you left questions and appreciative comments on the channel means that either you trust me or you've learned something from me. Whichever the case, as a form of appreciation to all of you who continue to follow this channel, allow me to answer some of your questions in this video. This video is gonna be a long one, a very long one. So without further ado, let us begin. Welcome back to NikkoVenture. As a nurse in the Philippines, what are the steps or processes to become a caregiver in Japan? Thank you so much for your comment, Miss Maureen Pelayo. I hope it's read as Pelayo. Okay, so if you are a Filipino nurse in the Philippines and you want to become a caregiver here in Japan, you have 4 options to choose from. These options are the 4 major foreign worker programs of Japan, namely TITP, SSW, JPEPA, and the Student Visa Program. The TITP program is a program here in this country that will allow you to work and live here in Japan for a maximum of 5 years. However, we will not be talking more about TITP in this video. Why? Simply because of the fact that TITP is soon to be abolished. And the information about the new program that will replace TITP is still incomplete. But if you want to know more about TITP, why is it gonna be abolished, and things like that, check these videos here. I left the links to these videos in the description box down below. Next is SSW, which is quite frankly Japan's flagship program when it comes to recruiting foreign workers from developing Asian countries. And just like TITP, you can live and work here in the land of the rising sun for a maximum of 5 years under the SSW program. If you want to know more about the SSW program, check these videos here. I left the links to these videos in the description box below. Then we have the EPA program, which allows Filipinos to become licensed nurses or licensed caregivers here in Japan. The official name of this program is EPA. It's just that it's commonly known as JPEPA in the Philippines. Under the JPEPA program, you are allowed to work and live here in Japan for a minimum of 3 years, but you can apply for an extension of 1 year or 2 years depending on your evaluation by the Japanese government. I just realized while making the script for this video that I'm yet to make a dedicated EPA video or a dedicated JPEPA video. I might make it one of these days, but for the meantime, if you want to know more about the EPA program or the JPEPA program, check these videos here, and these videos' links in the description box down below. Last but certainly not the least is the Student Visa Program of Japan. As the name implies, under this program you can come, work, and live here in this country as a student, but not just any other student, but a caregiving student of Japan. Under this program, and depending on your qualifications, you might have to enroll in a Japanese language school located here in Japan for a minimum of 1 year, and then after that you have to enroll to a Japanese caregiving college for a minimum of 2 years. After that, well, if you want to know more, check the link to this video here in the description box down below. So, in my humble opinion, the best program for Filipino nurses who want to become a caregiver here in Japan is the JPEPA program. Why?
1.
You will be given a Japanese language skills training for at least 1 year, 6 months in the Philippines and another 6 months located here in Japan. And throughout that entire year, you will receive a monthly monetary allowance. How much? I'm not entirely sure. But DITP and SSW program will not give you a monthly monetary allowance. These programs will instead give you a salary. That means you have to work for it. Under the JPEPA program, you will receive a monthly monetary allowance during your 1 year training. All you have to do is to study Nihongo. And it doesn't matter if you're good or bad in Japanese, you will still receive that allowance. The second reason why I think the JPEPA program is a great program for Filipino nurses who want to become a caregiver here in Japan is the educational support. One thing you need to know about the JPEPA program or the EPA program is that the main goal of this program is for you to become a介護福祉士or a licensed caregiver of Japan. Once you become a介護福祉士, you can live and work here in Japan with your family forever. But you can only become a介護福祉士of Japan if you really study. And the JPEPA program or the EPA program will provide you all the things you need to study. Books, teachers, trainings. If you want to know more about JPEPA, its processes and things like that, check the DMW website or the Department of Migrant Workers website. Or you can check the homepage of GQuels. GQuels is the supervising organization that supervises JPEPA. Although I came here in Japan under the student visa program, I personally will not recommend the student visa programs to my fellow Filipino nurses who want to become a caregiver here in Japan.
And here's why.
You will need a lot of money to study here in Japan under the student visa program. And I mean a lot of money. Even if, let's say, you landed a scholarship, you will still need money for food, transportation, and things that you want to do while you're here in Japan. And the cost of living here, ladies and gentlemen, will be a lot higher. And I mean a lot higher compared to the Philippines. Next, the student visa holder is only allowed to do part-time jobs for a maximum of 28 hours per week. A limited time for work also means a limited amount of salary that you will receive. And that limited amount of salary may not be enough for your day-to-day or monthly expenses. In my humble opinion, the challenge of a student visa holder is more on the financial side of things. Unless, of course, you have a family who will support your studies and your daily expenses. I did not have that luxury. As I said earlier, the TITP program is soon to be abolished. The TITP program is bound to be abolished. And while there is already a new program that will replace TITP, the specifics of that new program are still vague. Aside from that fact, the TITP program is known worldwide as a Japanese program that exploits and abuses its foreign workers. I'm talking about work without salary, harassment and abuse, and human trafficking. So yeah, I wouldn't risk it. The SSW program is also a viable option, but the SSW program has only been here for roughly 5 years. It was established back in 2019, roughly a year after I came here to Japan. So it might be safe to say that this program is still on its trial and error stage. I mean, they are still developing it, adding and removing industries and such. On the other hand, the EPA program or the JPEPA program was established way back 2006. Needless to say, it is a well-established program and there's already a lot, and I mean a lot, of EPA caregivers, Filipino caregivers here in Japan. That only shows that JPEPA or the EPA program is a tried and tested program. Far from perfect, but still, you get my point, right? Moving on. Hey, do foreign caregivers have a say if they would only want to take care of elderly residents of a certain gender? For example, if I'm a female caregiver, can I refuse to take care of a male elderly resident? Asking for a friend. Thank you so much for your comment, Mr. Aaron, the real truth. And the real answer is no. And that's the truth. The real truth. As a caregiver in Japan or in any other country, you are considered a healthcare professional. And as a healthcare professional, you are bound by the ethical principles, by the moral principles of your occupation to provide quality care to a person, regardless of that person's race, nationality, age, religion, and gender, etc. So, unless you have a really heavy reason, one that cannot be argued with, as a foreign caregiver here in Japan, you don't have any choice but to take care of both male and female elderly residents. No questions asked, no excuses. Refusing to take care of a person based on gender without any valid reason can be considered a form of discrimination and is generally unacceptable in our line of work. Mr. Aaron, the real truth, kindly relay that to your friend. Speaking of discrimination, let's proceed to the next one. Hi, I might be able to come to Kobe as a caregiving student. I know it's not gonna be easy at first, but do you recommend it though? What's your work schedule? Are your rest days on weekends? Is there any kind of discrimination? Thank you so much for your comment, Miss Josephine Fanai. Nice name.
Fanai.
First off, coming here to Japan as a caregiving student is not an easy process, so I congratulate you for doing so. Next, being a caregiving student here in Japan is certainly not gonna be easy. But not just at first. No. It's not gonna be easy for your entire existence here in Japan. I mean, just think of it like this. You're a foreigner in a foreign land studying a very difficult foreign language. After that, you will become a foreigner working in a foreign company, taking care of foreign elderly, all of whom speak and write in a foreign language. On top of that, you'll have to adapt to foreign cultures, rules, and a foreign society. If that's not difficult, I don't know what it is. That is difficult, not just at first, but every time you go out there and do the things that you have to do. As such, I will not recommend coming here to Japan to study. No, simply because of the fact that I was a caregiving student before and I personally experienced the hardships and difficulties of being one. Yes, not everything here in this country is difficult. There will always be moments or certain moments in your life here in Japan that will make you think, "Nihon ni zutto sumitai na." But let us just make one thing very clear, Miss Josephine. Studying or even working in a foreign land, here in Japan for example, is not for everyone. So it is very unfair for you if I recommend this country to study, only for you to find out the harsh reality later on. I will never recommend something to a person if that something will definitely cause pain and hardships to that person. What I do suggest though is to do your own research. Read news and articles or even watch videos about caregiving and life here in Japan as a foreign caregiver. Gather as much information as you can and use that information to decide whether you're up to the challenge or not. So, work schedule. My work schedule will never be the same every week. For example, this week I may have to work for 9 straight days. Straight 9 days without day offs in between. But next week I may have to work for just 2 days and then after that 2 days off. It will never be the same every week or each month. No, our work schedule, my work schedule is determined by our Kaigo Shunin and the company's work schedule policy. Each company will have a different policy when it comes to scheduling work shifts. So basically, I do all the shifts. I do night shifts, afternoon shifts, day shifts, early morning shifts, all shifts. And some overtime here and there. If you want to know more about my work shifts and what I do in every shift, check the links in these videos to these videos in the description box down below. The same basic principle applies to my rest days. In my case, weekends don't necessarily mean days off. Here are some examples of my work schedules for January, February, March, April. Discrimination. Miss Josephine. Discrimination will always be present everywhere. In your home country? Yes. In a foreign land? Yes. Especially in a foreign land. And Japan, the land of the rising sun, will never be an exemption. As a foreign worker or foreign caregiver, discrimination will always be your daily enemy here in Japan. Especially if you're from a developing Asian country, your skin's not white enough, and you're not fluent in Japanese. The form of discrimination that you will definitely experience once you're here in the land of the rising sun will vary in degree and will differ from person to person, but it will always be there. I guarantee that. So, how many times can you take the介護福祉士国家試験? After transitioning to SSW, can I take the exam every year? Thank you so much for your comment, Mr. Kenneth Reyes. You can only take the 介護福祉士国家試験 once a year. Once fucking year. Okay? I've been repeating this every time. You can only take the 介護福祉士国家試験 once in a single year. Specifically in January each year. I didn't say that you can only take the exam once in your life. No, I said you can take the exam once a year if you're qualified. So if you fail the exam this year, 2024, you can definitely reapply and retake the exam next year, 2025, if you're qualified. If you still failed the exam next year, 2025, and you're still qualified, you can definitely retake the exam in 2026, so on and so forth. Remember, once a year, every January, if you're qualified. An SSW caregiver can only apply and take the介護福祉士国家試験 after rendering 3 years of work under the SSW program here in Japan. So if you fail the 介護福祉士国家試験 on your first try, that is your 3rd year as an SSW caregiver here in Japan, you can reapply and retake for the 介護福祉士国家試験 next year on your 4th year as an SSW caregiver here in Japan. If you still failed the 介護福祉士国家試験 here, you can retake and reapply for the 介護福祉士国家試験 on your 5th and last year as an SSW caregiver here in Japan. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, an SSW caregiver can only be allowed to work and live here in Japan for a maximum of 5 years. That only means that an SSW caregiver will only have 3 attempts to try and pass the 介護福祉士国家試験. What happens after that if you still failed the exam on your 5th and last attempt? If you want to know more, check this video here. I left the link to this video in the description box down below. Thank you so much for your comment, Mr. Kenneth. Hi, does a caregiving company in Japan offer accommodation to their foreign employees? Thank you so much for your comment, Mr. or Miss Superstinist. I'm not really 100% sure about this, but I will answer this question based on what I know and what I experienced. Okay? Okay. Generally speaking, the absence or presence of your accommodation will be written on your employment contract. So check it there. Check it now. As far as I know, all Japanese companies that will hire a foreign worker under the TITP, SSW, and JPEPA or EPA program are required to provide some sort of assistance when it comes to their foreign workers' accommodation. The degree of assistance that these Japanese companies may provide when it comes to your accommodation will vary depending, again, on what's written on your employment contract. So check it there. Check it now. Some companies will provide accommodation complete with all the necessary appliances that you will need or a foreign worker will need for their day-to-day life. However, some Japanese companies may only provide an empty room, and that's absolutely fine. Unless it is explicitly written in your employment contract, Japanese companies, most if not all Japanese companies, are not required to provide appliances to their foreign workers. Please take note of that. So that's it for today. There's still a lot of comments that need to be answered. Sadly, I don't want to make this video needlessly long. However, I will make another video like this one. Your questions about caregiving or life in Japan in general might be on that future video. So please make sure to subscribe so that you will make sure that you will get updated once that future video gets published. Please don't forget to leave a like, comment, and of course, share this video with your interested friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much for your time watching this video. See you in the next one. Babush!